God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the ones that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Don't you love that prayer? I'm sure you do. Want to welcome all of you to our spiritual dialogue. I'm Reverend Anna, and this is Reverend Neusom. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Are you serene?
I am pretty serene. I think maybe this time of isolation without too much stimulation is easier for me to be serene than most times, I think, right now. I'm doing well. I want to say, Anna, I love the prayer. I think it's a bundle of wisdom in a short amount of words. And when said sincerely, it does lead us to another way of being rather than complaining or struggling against what cannot be changed. And then also being paralyzed by the things we can do, but we're too busy being consumed by what we can't change, that we often don't have the wisdom to know the difference because we are consumed by the first thing, which is pushing against what is. And I really love the idea that if we could get it clear in our minds that something Marcus Aurelius said. Marcus Aurelius was a Stoic philosopher. So Marcus Aurelius said that essentially we're just a dot in the vastness of time. We did not exist before, we exist here, and then we don't exist later. But you see, we'd also be a dot in the vastness of space. And so we could also be a dot in the vastness of consciousness. We are small, and so much of what we see around us, we did not either make or cause to be made. And so I have that feeling here. We're sitting in the sanctuary, and I have that feeling a lot when I come in here, and I look around at this beautiful building, none of which I constructed personally. I don't even know how it got here, really. I was the minister at the time it happened, but how did this all come about? It was way more than me. You know, it was like, wow, look at that. It was magic. It was an unfolding of something, a community's desire to have a place to be. It was an unfolding that was so much bigger than any one of us. And so much of life is like that. We are occupying a small space for a short amount of time with limited amount of understanding. And that's who we are in this universe. And yet we want to complain like it should never be this way. How would we know?
Yeah, as I'm hearing you, Neusom, I'm thinking to myself, there's a lot of power in acceptance. And acceptance comes with the idea of surrender, on trusting, of letting things that take their natural order. Still, I must say, to be really objective, that also there are times in which our action is required. Yes. And standing up against something is required. So how the prayer talks about the wisdom to know the difference it's so crucial, because there are times that there are things that we need to just take a stand and say no. And there are things that we can just have to let them be and let them take the course they're supposed to take.
Right.
So we need to be good at both.
And wise enough to know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Therein lies the rub, I think, for many of us, is knowing the difference. Some things you can, if you really think about it, you can recognize you don't know the difference. I mean, you do know the difference already, excuse me. And so just let it be. Like you were saying, acceptance. Prior to this time of sequestration and social distancing, there was a lot of driving and a lot of road rage. As a matter of fact, there appears to be, percentage-wise, even more road rage, or either I've gotten to be a worse driver. But people seem to be angry about something. I can't quite figure it out. I mean, they cut me off and they give me the finger at the same time. It's like, what is this? But it's none of my business. It's absolutely none of my business what they do. And so I've kind of come to know that. So I go, okay, well, maybe I did something wrong. I don't know what it was, but let's let that go.
During this time, we're still during the month of May, and we have chosen to have an exploration of the heart energy and the heart intelligence, that it's us, and choosing that space. We already did it this Sunday. There's a beautiful talk that you just deliver on how to have the heart take the lead. But relating it to what we are saying right now, if we learn more and more to be present to the heart energy and to its messages and to its intuition and to its wisdom, we just know beyond all of that, all of the unchanging qualities of life. At that level, if we go deeper and deeper, we would learn or understand that there's a reason for things not changing. Like at the ego level, we need them to. It's almost like at the ego level, things have to be this way so I can be happy. At the heart level, it's like it is what it is, and there's something that is being opened for me at this time that I need to understand or learn, and that's where the biggest value is.
Yeah.
You follow?
Well, I do think it for many of us right now, the only thing we can really adjust is ourselves. There's so much on the outside that appears to be on its own time, but what we can adjust is ourselves. And I got to say, I've heard that a lot of people are feeling anxious and that there's a lot of fatigue with being isolated and stuff like that. And it may be something we can't change, but there's a possibility that the strenuousness of this isolation could also be strengthening us to go much more deeply. If I'm not talking too much in a row here, I did a bunch of meditation retreats, which were put on by Burmese Buddhists. And Burmese Buddhists
He's really enlightened, by the way. Go on.
Must be the meanest people in the world, because talk about social isolation.
Cannot be too serious for it.
You were not allowed to look at anybody, much less say anything. You were forced to sit in meditation, not forced, you chose to sit in the meditation for 11 hours a day on the floor. And it was painful and it was difficult. And I remember, sometimes I think about those times and I think, it just taught me how to deal with pain. Well, that's a great thing to know. Yeah. Someone says something negative to you, it hurts. It's like, I've had worse. I've sat an hour in intense pain, not moving, because that was my spiritual practice. So now you say something, okay, good job, nice try. Doesn't bother me, right?
Yeah, those are experiences that really stretch you to a point that you didn't even know you had. And now you do. You stretch to, we were at the Tuesday group, we were talking about heart stretchers and experiences that get you to a point where you are even finding that your heart can open even more.
Yeah.
That, we tend to have a certain capacity of how much my heart is able to open. But then we go through an experience, we start identifying with our true capacity, let's say for love and forgiveness. And now that we have that new level, we can walk and do life from that perspective. Yeah. That's what they say that, I was listening to some healers who were saying the real gift of trauma, that once you're able to heal your trauma, it really opens up to levels of awareness and light that can really secure the rest of your life in another dimension. And I really feel, Neusom, that if we, going back to the Serenity prayer, if we're able to accept from that place of faith and trust, if we were not able to survive this, I have a firm belief that we will never be put through something that we cannot handle.
True.
So it means that we are fully equipped, not only individually, but collectively, to go through this period. And if we let the wisdom of the heart kick in, it's going to show us the blessing sooner or later.
Yeah, I mean, almost all suffering, I think, that we do personally, that we do courageously and honestly, and not suffering that we make up, suffering where we complain about things that really is none of our business. But true suffering where we lose and where we are confined and where we have grief or pain, as we go through that, if we can keep our hearts open, we become a new creature altogether. We become so much stronger in compassion and self-acceptance and in tenderness toward other people. It's a powerful, unpleasant, but powerful experience.
I can't help but think of my beloved Ram Dass. He would say suffering is grace. And I know it's not an idea that we work with in unity too much, but there's truth in it. And not that we're going to ask for suffering, but there will be times in our lives where we feel trapped and pain becomes suffering. But ultimately that suffering, like you're saying, is going to open up the cracks, like Rumi says, where the light can finally come and shine through.
If we will allow it.
Right.
Because you can suffer and that's it.
Right. And be trapped there.
Yeah. It's just suffering and I'm not getting anywhere and I hate this and I hate this and I hate this
right.
and I hate this.
But that's where the acceptance comes.
And then if you can get to the point where you go, there's something in it for me, it seems to do an alchemical shift to where now it can be of service to us. We almost have to say, I accept it and choose it. There was something I read, a quote I read, it said, you can never love yourself completely if you hate the things that caused you to be who you are.
Wow.
And so our need to come to a degree of acceptance and even appreciation for the suffering we have gone and are going through, an openness to feel the pain and the loss, and just to let the heart do its magic with it. The heart has some wisdom.
Transmuting power.
Right, yeah.
Transmuting power. And as I'm hearing you saying what you're saying, whatever can make me a more compassionate being has value.
Yeah.
And when things are constant and the way we want them to be, not necessarily we reach those levels of compassion. So I am setting the intention for us and for those in our community and our world that this will lead to a more compassionate world by opening up our individual compassion.
Yeah. I remember a phrase, and it may apply here, which is essentially that in victory we are alone, but in defeat we are with everybody else. And so even in difficult times, know that you're never alone, especially in difficult times. There are billions of people suffering, and your suffering is not actually that unusual. It is part of the human condition, and sometimes it's something we can change, and we should. And sometimes it's something we can't change, and we can grow from it.
And no matter whether we can or not, we need to remember we're always sustained by grace in the process. So even if we fail to accept or not accept, we're being held in the hands and the presence of the divine at all times. And that's
Yeah.
really comforting.
Yeah. I'm also reminded of a phrase that I really love. There is no personal failure in the time of the coronavirus. And I thought, how forgiving that is. It's new, it's different, and it's not personal. And what grace in knowing that.
Trust the process and stay with an open heart. It will never lead you astray.
Yeah.
And keep joining in all these dialogues, and you can subscribe here at the channel. Any feedback will be precious to know. Thank you for tuning in, and God bless you.
Yes. Namaste.